So you've clicked on this video and some of you are already ready to argue in the comments. I just want to ask you guys to please be open-minded because I'm not fully aware on this topic. I don't have studies to back me up. I don't have an immense amount of research. These are opinions that I've kind of cultivated over time, watching a bunch of different people from both sides of the coin argue their point. Whenever I make a video about a controversial kind of topic, I always get people commenting, writing essays when they haven't even watched the video, and they try and make assumptions about me and about my personal life and about my personality. They haven't even watched the video, and then when they get ethered, they want to take the comment down. So don't let that be you. Now, the reason why I feel like this topic has such a gray area is because that everyone draws their moral line differently. There's a lot of cultural ambiguity in terms of this kind of subject, teaching LGBTQ plus things in schools. Your opinion is really determined by where you draw the line in terms of your moral beliefs. And I personally think that teaching this stuff in schools and making it mandatory, that's the main word. Making this stuff mandatory, in my opinion, crosses the line of morality. Now, I think most people believe that people aren't really born gay or born trans or anything like that. I think that personally, the way you feel about yourself is shaped through your idea and your perception of culture, reality, and just your real world experience. Those things shape you to become the person you are when you're older. And nowadays, more than anything, the consumption of media, because there's so many different media platforms, so many people trying to push themselves in the media world. If you look at it through that lens, I can understand why parents wouldn't want their children learning about this stuff so early. One thing that is undeniable is that kids are impressionable as they're so easily manipulated, and you can twist anything to make them believe it. And they'll probably believe it because they just haven't got that type of thought process yet. They're kids. You don't expect them to be all well knowing and shit. And I know that people from this community, the LG community, I'm gonna just say LG for short, but you guys know what I mean. I think people from the LG community, I don't think they mean any ill will. That would be stupid to think that. I know you guys just want people to be informed, etc., etc. But doing stuff like this, having it in schools and making it mandatory, in my opinion, does more harm than good. Because you can convince a child of anything, even about themselves. You could damn near convince a black child that he's white. Now, I don't know what it's like to be gay or trans. I mean, I'm not part of that community, but I do know what it's like to get distasteful looks, to be treated a certain way, and to have no control over how people perceive you. I understand those things. If you're new to this channel, I used to have dreadlocks. Something as simple as people don't want to sit next to me on the bus just because I gave off a certain type of impression. People were asking me for a lighter or for crack in England because of what my dreads meant, basically. So I know what it's like to be stereotyped, to be perceived a certain way, to get distasteful looks. I know what it's like for all of that stuff. I can definitely empathize with your situation, even though I'm still kind of ignorant because I haven't gone through it as a gay person or as a trans person or anything like that. But having to put that type of responsibility on kids who aren't even at double digits yet in their life, I think that's irresponsible. And think about it, they spend basically half their life in school. School is what really gives them their first kind of world views and their first type of moral values. And I don't want to distort their potential moral values. Like, for most people, they don't even hit puberty properly when they're in primary school. A lot of them, they're in secondary school or high school if you're in America. And that's like basically pre-teenage. Those aren't kids at that point. Like, think about this. When you first had those kind of thoughts in terms of you might be gay or you might be trans, were you really single digits? And I don't mean looking at a boy if you're a guy and thinking he's cute when you were like 6 years old. I mean like when you started thinking widget, and I'm saying you weren't. Let's be honest, you were not. If you were, then that's kind of crazy, I ain't gonna lie. And it's getting to the point where kids are starting to be at the forefront of this like internal war dialogue we got going on. I mean war as in like, we're seeing kids at the forefront of this like gender discussion and gender debate. And it's to the point where it's creating such a divide in schools as a child. And this is something that a child shouldn't have to go through. This is for adults.
A 12-year-old boy attending middle school in Middleborough, Massachusetts, was sent home from school recently for wearing a t-shirt which teachers complained made some students feel unsafe. The shirt that Liam Morrison wore looked like this one, with 5 words: "There are only 2 genders." Liam recently told the school board that he refused to remove the shirt because he was only stating facts.
I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class? Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do. Even at 12 years old, I have my own political opinions, and I have a right to express those opinions. Even at school, this right is called the First Amendment to the Constitution. I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion.
And there was a clip that went viral, I don't know how many months ago it was now, of a pastor or a preacher or something reading like a sexually explicit book that was available to little kids in the library.
This book here, my name is John Amanchukwu, as I've stated earlier. It's called It's Perfectly Normal for Students 10 and Up.
And I want to make a quick disclaimer. I know in the pastor video where he's showing the book is available to people 10 and up. And I kind of really focused on kids, which is really 10 and below, because I mentioned single digits. Even though it's not really about the age group I'm talking about, I do agree with the pastor in terms of that book being available to people 10 and up. I think the legal age in England is 16 or 18, I don't remember. But let's say it is 16. The reason there's a legal age of 16 is because the government don't want kids, doing that type of stuff until they're 16. Now, whether they do it or not at a younger age is a different topic. And I think that in a lewd book of that detail, it should be available or made available to age groups that at bare minimum meet the age of consent. So in America, if it's 18 or 21, whatever, it should be made available for people who are 18 or 21 or whatever the legal age of consent is. 10 is just too low. 10 is just way too low of an age to be having that type of stuff.
I'll read some of this for you. It says, after a bit, a person's vagina becomes moist and slippery, and the clitoris becomes hard. After a bit, a person's penis becomes erect, stiff, and larger.
Can we... Sir, I'm sorry.
Was it something I said? Was it something I said? If you don't want to hear it in a school board meeting, why should children be able to check it out of the school system?
Kids are having mobile phones. A bunch of little kids have phones better than me, and they all got access to TikTok and all these things. It's going to promote kids being more extreme because they can get their 10 minutes of TikTok fame. But for kids, that's a whole big deal. Apart from school, social media, these kids' lives, that's what they focus on. So you're going to get more kids being out of control, saying dumb shit, trying to get in trouble, and it's going to keep spiraling until you create a divide of two camps in schools. And all of it is with the goal of going viral on TikTok. Now, I quickly want to touch on the point of religion because someone who went to Catholic schools, I understand where people come in terms of forcing religion. However, I would have to disagree. Even in these schools, it's not mandatory that you take part in religious sermons and things like that. Even when I went to school in St. Lucia and I went to a Catholic school, I didn't have to take part in the Catholic things that were going on. Like if you weren't Catholic, you didn't have to say the Lord's Prayer. You didn't have to do like the communion and things like that. You didn't have to take part in those things. And I feel like religious schools in general have made it a lot more inclusive to the point where you don't have to be of a certain religion to go to those schools. You don't have to take part in their religious things, and it's become a lot more of an inclusive environment. So I'd have to disagree that religion is forced onto kids the way it used to be. I personally think that when it comes to big decisions like, sexual orientation and gender and all these kind of things, we need to let the child grow and decide for themselves. I don't think we should be pushing things on children. I feel like we should just let the child grow, let the child consume whatever media they choose to, and let them decide for themselves what they're going to be. I feel like we should just monitor their experiences and make sure they don't go too off the rails. And when the child is old enough, i.e., in my opinion, when you hit those teenage years, you could start kind of making that decision for yourself for whatever the family and the adults feel necessary. Whatever age that is, let the child get to that age and they can start making their own decisions when it comes to that type of stuff. I appreciate you guys watching. If you made it this far, I don't know, comment something, I don't know. But thanks for watching. Take care, yo.
I'm not a savior nor a saint. Told 30s and sticks with an open case. I try to behave when I know I can't. So purpose of this is to motivate. What's the ticket? Shit we can negotiate. Take a toke of the law while I pull the drink.